Ripple, they just got preliminary approval on a cash license in Europe. And the moment that is fully confirmed, every bank, every fintech, every financial institution on the continent, they can plug into Ripple's end-to-end crypto and stablecoin payment infrastructure through a single regulated integration. A license, folks. The kind of regulatory moat that takes years to dig. While you were watching Congress debate the Clarity Act, Europe, they already moved. That's where we're starting today, because this video, it's not about what might happen. It is about what already happened and what the US Treasury Secretary just said on camera. What the XRP ledger is showing right now in real numbers, and why every single one of these developments points to a much higher price point. And it's not a round number I invented, a number that comes directly out of a specific mythology that I am going to walk you through towards the end of this video step by step. So stick around for that. But first, we need to talk about Europe, because the clock just started and most people have not heard it yet. As always, I appreciate each and every one of you that hit that like button. The more likes we get, the more YouTube will push this content that currently capping us around 2,000 to 4,000 views. We need more likes to break through. I know we can do it. I appreciate each and every single one of you that come here day in and day out and hit that button. Now, folks, pay attention, and every video should be talking about this. There is a hearing for the Clarity Act on July 17th. Now, this isn't the actual voting day. I want you to remember that. They will talk about the Clarity Act and when it will go to vote, which, if I had to guess, is going to be at some point in early August. Let's just clear that up. I've seen a lot of people spreading misinformation saying that on the 17th they will vote for the Clarity Act. That is not the case. Now, let's get into this, what both Monica and Cassie had to say. So Cassie, she's the managing director for the UK and Europe. And she posted, and Monica Long posted, 2 tweets discussing what's actually going on over in Europe. First, Monica says, this is what compliance first looks like. Europe doesn't have a Gary Gensler over there or a Jay Clayton. I like it. And then Cassie Craddock, she posted that they got preliminary approval of Ripple's CASP licenses. So let me show you why that sentence should make every long-term XRP holder's hands just stop shaking and relax now. SWIFT moves money between European institutions right now through a correspondent banking chain that requires every node in that chain to hold pre-funded Nostro accounts. A German bank sending euros to a Polish fintech is not sending euros. It is sending instructions that hop through 2 or 3 intermediaries, each one of which has money sitting in the account doing nothing. The BIS, the Bank for International Settlements, they estimated that those Nostro Vostro accounts is between $25 and $27 trillion. Just sitting, earning nothing, costing everyone. Well, XRP settlement time on the XRP ledger, as of index, 105,137,381, which you can go verify yourself, is operating with 36 transactions confirmed in a single closed ledger as of 6:21 a.m. Eastern Standard Time today, June 24th. And you know how much the fee was? 0.005 XRP. That is a fraction of a cent, moving real value across a settled, immutable ledger in seconds, while the Nostro account systems bleed capital by the hour. When your European institutions integrate through a single CASP license connected up to Ripple's infrastructure, they're not just getting faster payments. They're unlocking frozen liquidity. Even a 0.1% release of that 25 trillion Nostro pool into active XRP settled corridors, it creates 25 billion in annualized transaction flows against a fixed maximum supply. And that supply number, I need you to remember it. because we're about to get into a very interesting visual, and it's going to reframe everything you think you knew about XRP scarcity. That's right. But first, let's just hit a quick clip from the sponsor. I've been following FortisX for quite some time, and what I like is that they continue to move towards greater transparency and security. Their platform is designed for long-term holders who want to put assets like XRP to work through liquidity pools and simply instead of keeping them idle. Over the past months, the team has completed audits with Certicate and Cyberscope, and they made the company publicly visible through SEC Edgar filings, and recently they launched a 50,000 Certicate bug bounty program so independent security researchers can test the platform. They clearly keep investing in security and transparency, which is exactly what you want to see from a project, folks. If you've been holding XRP for the long term and you want to learn more, check out the link down below. Now here is where it gets geopolitical, because while Cassie was posting about a European CASP license, Senator Lumens was still waiting on Congress to pass the Clarity Act. If European institutions can access regulated crypto and stablecoin payment rails right now through a single Ripple integration, and American banks are still waiting for legislative clarity, then the institutions building the next generation of cross-border payment infrastructure, they're not going to wait. They're going to go build in Frankfurt, in Amsterdam, and Paris. And the stablecoin rails they build will not necessarily be dollar denominated. This is the petrodollar risk hiding in plain sight. The dollar's reserve currency status is not protected by geography. It is protected by the infrastructure through which your global trade is settled. If that infrastructure migrates to euro-denominated stablecoins running on Ripple's CASP license rails before the Clarity Act passes, the US does not just lose a competitive advantage in fintech, it loses settlement leverage. Senator Lumens understands this. The question is whether Congress moves fast enough for this to matter. And for XRP specifically, the mechanism here is direct. More regulated corridors means more real on-demand liquidity volume, which means more XRP is purchased on one end of the corridor, transmitted, and sold on the other. Each transaction is a buy and sell in a rapid sequence. And as your corridor volumes start to grow, so does the baseline demand floor underneath the price. In Europe, they just added a very large floor, which gets to this, which is very interesting. This is your latest ledger index, which was just closed this morning. You notice the total number of coins on the ledger? 99,985,644,153 XRP. That's not 100 billion. That's not the number from 2017. It's less. Here's what it means and why this matters. More than most people will acknowledge, because most people will look at this and be like, it's nothing, it's peanuts. Critics of XRP have always come back to two arguments. The fee burn rate is slow, and the remaining supply here is still enormous. Look, both things are technically true, but they also completely missed the point. In 2017, when Bitcoin first crossed into serious institutional consideration, the total XRP supply was higher than it was today. Every ledger that closes, it burns a tiny amount of XRP as a transaction fee. 0.005418, right? Just showed it to you. It's on the screen right there. Fees burned. 36 transactions in that single close. That is a deflationary mechanism that never reverses. The supply curve here only goes one direction. You do not need to believe in dramatic burn projections to understand the impacts here. The maximum supply of XRP is already lower than it was at the starting point of the last major institutional adoption cycle. While Bitcoin's supply schedule is known and fixed by code, XRP supply is lower today. than it was the last time the market decided to reprice this asset class upward. Take that math however you want, but you need to take it seriously. Now I need to bring your attention over to this. Mike from Ripple flexing about RLUSD, and it's a good flex.
I want to talk to you a bit more maybe about RLUSD, which is Ripple's stablecoin, and how it fits into the Prime strategy. I mean, the team has been integrating it as a settlement layer and collateral asset across venues. What does this stablecoin native Prime brokerage make possible that a traditional one can't? And we also just pulled up this chart here that we put together kind of the growth of RLUSD supply and really how it's been expanding since, let's say, last year. Give or take, yeah.
Yep. I mean, you can see the charts up and to the right? And so I'll kind of, I think the math speaks for itself, or the data speaks for itself, I should say.
I want to talk.
Good from Mike on that flex. Now we got to listen to this clip that's circulating around right now. The Great Reset is here. They are recreating the Bretton Woods banking system. Now I know how that sounds. Bear with me, because what Scotty B actually said is worth hearing directly.
Banks were invented around Bretton Woods, which was post World War II. Europe was, and Asia was a unique time in America, and it led to incredible prosperity across the world. So why can't we do that again? And why can't we focus on growth? Like, what are the tools? What is hindering growth of these economies?
So this is a sitting U.S. Treasury Secretary describing a deliberate, anticipated restructuring of the global financial architecture. Bretton Woods in 1944 did three very specific things. It pegged currencies to gold, it established the dollar as the global reserve anchor, and it created the institutional framework. The IMF, the World Bank, all which through your international settlements flowed. Every major economy in the world had to adopt its monetary infrastructure to that system, or get left out of the post-war reconstruction capital. Now, if Scott is signaling a new version of that restructure in here, the question is not whether digital assets are involved. The question is which digital assets become the actual settlement layers. XRP's legal clarity, the regulatory moat Ripple has spent over 4 years in court to establish, it's not a footnote, right?
So US-based crypto companies, now Trump is out there saying, hey, maybe we could eliminate or at least give better tax breaks when it comes to capital gains if you're invested in crypto companies that are based here in the US. So it goes back to that pro-America, make America great again theme that he's going for.
Listen to this part.
Economic historian and someone who's been in markets for 40 years, I actually think I'm starting to look like it now, is I think we're also at a unique moment geopolitically. And I could see in the next few years that we are going to have some kind of a grand global economic reordering. There's something on the equivalent of a new Bretton Woods, or if you want to go back, like something back to the steel agreements or the Treaty of Versailles. There's a very good chance that we are going to have that over the next 4 years, and I'd like to be a part of it. I've studied this. I think it's kind of a unique skill. Economic historian.
He says in the next few years, we are going to have some kind of grand economic reordering, something equivalent to a new Bretton Woods. And there's a very good chance that happens in the next 4 years, and I would like to be a part of it. 4 years. That is the timeline the U.S. Treasury Secretary just put on a structural reset of the global financial system. Ripple got the CASP license in Europe. The XRP ledger is processing transactions right now. The XRP supply is lower than it was in 2017. And the man controlling the U.S. Treasury is publicly saying the architecture of global finance is being rebuilt. Think about what US-based digital assets means in Bretton Woods 2.0 context. The original system required dollar-denominated settlement. A digital version of that system requires a digital asset with US legal clarity, institutional-grade infrastructure, and an existing network of regulated financial institution relationships. There is a very short list of assets that qualify in all three dimensions simultaneously. And whether you like it or not, XRP is on that list. Now let's talk about the math here. In 2017, institutional adoption phase, Bitcoin's market cap represented approximately 62% of the total cryptocurrency market at its peak. The dominance reflected Bitcoin's position as the only asset institution had frameworks to understand and custody. The total crypto market cap at that moment was approximately only $600 billion. Now I want you to apply the same logic to XRP in the current cycle, because XRP is not competing to replace Bitcoin's store of value narrative. XRP is the settlement layer narrative, and it's the only major crypto asset with a CASP license in Europe, a resolved SEC case in the US, active on-demand liquidity corridors across dozens of countries, and a Treasury Secretary who is publicly describing the kind of global financial restructuring that requires exactly what XRP does. If XRP captures the same percentage of total crypto market cap that Bitcoin held back in 2017 during its institutional adoption phase, which we haven't had yet for XRP, not at peak euphoria, not at the top of the cycle, but at the moment where institutions started treating it as infrastructure, and the total crypto market cap continues expanding on the trajectory that BlackRock's liquidity and midterm analysis implies, the math works directly to a double-digit XRP. No, that's not a moon price, folks. Don't worry. That is not a laser eye fantasy. That is XRP just achieving the same proportional market recognition Bitcoin achieved when institutions first decided it was real. In the XRP ledger, it's showing 99,985,644,153 XRP, lower than 2017 and burning every block. As always, is not financial advice. Please do your own research. You can verify all the information yourself and make your own conclusions. Let me know what your conclusions come out to. That's going to do it for me. I'll see all y'all on the next one.